For so long, my life has been a performance. As soon as you perform, you're on a stage and people critique you because it's a performance. But if I'm not performing, if I'm just being myself here, you don't have the right to critique it.
Alexis Ren is an actress, entrepreneur, model, and mental health advocate. She starred in movies including Latency and The Enforcer. Alexis founded the incredible We Are Warriors wellness community in 2020. It focuses on self-growth, love, and strength for women. She uses her social media platform to share messages that impact the world for good.
Either everything is sacred or none of it is. And I decided that all of it is. That's what I felt with all of that, with like investing in taxes and crypto. It was so masculine, first and foremost. It was very masculine. No offense, but we don't need like another industry like dominated by masculinity.
I'm Radhi Devlukia, and on my podcast, A Really Good Cry, we embrace the real, the messy, and the beautiful, providing a space for raw, unfiltered conversations that celebrate vulnerability and allow you to tune in to learn, connect, and find comfort together. I am so excited to have you here. Thank you. And everyone that's listening, let me just give you a bit of a background. We've known each other for a good few years now.
Yeah, a few years.
Whenever we have met, I feel our conversations have just been so wonderful. I've always left either learning something from you or feeling inspired by you in some way, or feeling like, oh my gosh, I have so much more to learn in my life because I've just seen how you absorb information and how you share it with people. And so honestly, when I was thinking about all the things I've learned from you, and I don't even know whether you know that I felt that way about you, but it really, when I thought about who I wanted on, I was like, I want you to share what you have with whoever is listening. And so thank you so much for being here.
That was so sweet.
No, I really mean it. And I don't know whether you know this, but the one thing that I found incredible and what I was really attracted by for you is the way that you speak about money and women and finances. And you told me about NFTs and all these things, which I personally and so many women feel fairly uncomfortable dealing with or becoming comfortable with. So I would love to hear how you actually got to that position of feeling so empowered in that space.
I feel like it always goes back to my mom.
Really?
Because she had me question everything in life. Like my ability to learn comes from my ability to ask good questions. You have to know a little bit about something in order to even ask the good questions. Mm-hmm. So I'm always like, when I'm talking about talking to my, I don't know the correct term for them, but like investment advisor.
Yes, yeah. Financial advisors.
Financial advisors. I'm just like, I apologize if this is a stupid question, and correct me or divert the question into what you think I'm trying to say, because I'm learning as I'm even creating these sentences.
Yes.
So I think it's your ability to be okay with sounding a little stupid. It really has helped me, because when I've stopped judging myself for not knowing, because there's so many things about more in like the aspect of business and finances that we as women kind of, or just everyone in general, kind of pretends to know.
Yes,
we're like, oh yeah, totally. 100%. Like, I know what that is. It's fucking IRA. Yeah, totally. Like Roth IRA. Like I know all about that. Yeah, totally. So I've had to just sit down. It's almost like, with writer's block, when the hardest part is sitting down. That's what I felt with all of that, with like investing in taxes and crypto. It was so masculine, first and foremost. Yes. It's very masculine. A lot of like bros being like, oh, I don't do. I'm just like, oh, great. No offense, but we don't need like another industry like dominated by masculinity. It was really just about getting through that resistance and starting to just ask dumb questions.
It is.
Yeah.
It is like, for me, if I'm completely honest, I feel like I was able to, in people's eyes, I leaned into the feminine aspects, in inverted commas, of life. Like I love cooking. I love doing like a lot of the things which people think is part of a feminine nature. And when it came to business and money, and I think it's part of a culture thing that I came from as well, where I felt like that was the man's job. Like that is something the man does.
It's ingrained into us.
I also, from my mom, I remember her telling me, like, when you get to a certain point in your life, you're going to regret not knowing, not understanding, and not being in charge of your own finances. Like you really will feel that void, because you will feel like a part of you don't have control of. And I still went through that. And then when I became an entrepreneur in some way, and I started having, I created businesses, I was still kind of taking my own power away from myself and giving it away to people because I didn't believe I had the capability to do it.
Yeah.
Because of the way that I had told my mind, like, you're not good with numbers, you're not good with money, just give that away to people and you'll be fine. Like, you don't need to learn.
You don't want to do that. I don't want me, but like, I don't want to.
But to understand to know
good.
You can do it without, like, you can still give it away knowing that you have other places you want to invest your time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want to know, am I being taken advantage of? How do I even know do I even know where I pay taxes or what? All those little questions, I think it's important to know and then give away rather than give it away with no knowledge at all.
How crazy is it that school doesn't teach that?
I know. That makes me so sad.
I was mind blown. I was like, they don't usually teach you the basics of a credit card or savings or like investing in any way. Like people have this idea that in order to invest, you have to have like millions of dollars. And I'm like, no, you could start with literally $20, like $40. It's the long term. It's just the sooner you do it, the better because it's compound interest like over your lifetime.
Yeah.
So it's not how much you put in, it's how early you do it. And there's like I've been learning, my parents didn't know this, but you can start investing for your child when they're like, I don't know the proper terms, but that you can like put them under you. So they already have investments.
Savings
like
going on. Yeah.
Not even savings, investments. Like there's so many levels to it. And it's my friend who is an accountant. He says the tax book is like a guide. It's not like a list of rules you have to obey or disobey. It's a guide on how to benefit from the system.
Yeah.
And when he told me that, I was like, okay, that takes like this idea of like the system being against me in that way because knowledge is the best form of power in my mind. So,
and the best form of finding your way out of fear. Like you're always scared of things that you don't know. You're always scared of the unknown or the possibilities that could come before they've even happened. And so that's how every time I feel scared of something like finance, I'm like, okay, let me at least be in knowledge. Let me inform myself. And then it's not this big scary monster underneath my bed. It's something that I at least have an understanding of.
Yeah. So you keep waiting and waiting and waiting. And you're like, oh, I should have done this last year. And it just keeps compiling in that way. And that feels like not good at all.
Yeah.
So it's just facing it. The same way you would face going to yoga class. Like, I don't want to go to yoga. I don't want to work out. But like, I love the feeling of power and calmness and peace that I feel afterwards. Like that's what I'm training my mind to do, is to be able to hold and wait for the feeling of satisfaction from something great as opposed to something sudden and just, like watching TV or doing something like that, which all of those have a purpose, like, of course. But teaching my mind to love those moments of the overcoming.
Yes,
it becomes so addicted because we're all addicts. We're all addicts. Yes. So you have to change that addict to a habit and then you go forth using it because we love routine. We love having something that we can count on and do every day that brings us this sense of safety. Because the only promise in life is change. So we need to pretend with our coffee each morning, like this is my security.
Yeah, exactly. No, I love that. That's so true. I find that with myself also. Like I find that I always want things to remain the same and I don't want
But then we don't.
Yeah, but then I know. Then you want
it's paradoxical.
Too confusing.
Yeah. We're ridiculous. We like we want. And I think that's like what I've been learning. I've been obsessed with paradoxes for the last couple of years. And it's like this divine paradox of like being both, wanting both, like it being both all the time. Like truth is but half truth. Like there's always a pair of opposites. Like you are and you're not. Like the universe is and isn't at the same time. Like all of it exists and doesn't at the same time, bro.
I have on my notes about talking to you about existential stuff and we already got there. So this is basically like you are just a field of so many different incredible things. And I just love it because we can go from talking about finances to talking about are we really here? Is this the meaning of life? Like what are we even doing here?
Because it goes from like, this is it to this is it.
Yeah,
like that's life.
Is.
That really is it.
And I know you mentioned this before with the finances about it being a masculine industry. And I wanted to ask you how you managed to balance your, because every single person, whatever you are, if we are human, we need to learn how to balance our feminine and masculine within us. We all have both tendencies in us, both energies in us. And sometimes when you are a businesswoman, when you are someone who is having to lean into that area of your life, it's difficult to balance that feminine and masculine energy. And so I don't know whether you felt that or how you've managed to create that balance in your life.
Yeah. So it was kind of interesting because you think, and I've seen this so many times with females, like when they go into a very masculine dominated space, they tend to become masculine. And we're like, okay, well, that's not the solution either, because now we're just bringing the same energy. So what I've learned is when I feel like I'm in a space that's super masculine dominated, I actually lean more into my feminine than I would do than anything else, because I know that's what's missing. Like I always like to look at situations and be like, what is the missing ingredient? And can I become that? Because then I can effortlessly fit into an experience or a relationship, or because we're all made up. Like our characters, our personalities. That's what I've learned with acting is like the me that I've built is completely made up and can be changed and switched around. And so not leaning so hard on like the permanence of our identity and leaning more into just like, what can I transform into for this moment to be whole, I guess.
Yeah. And I love what you said, because I would have thought that's how I react in situations. Like I go into an environment that may be very different to me, and I feel like I have to adapt to that environment versus being someone who is bringing something new to the table. You have this habit of wanting to fit in, right? Like
especially as females, we're like, how can we?
How can I mold myself and adapt myself to fit in rather than stand out?
Yeah.
And I've actually seen you do that. And that's why I wanted to bring up, because I feel like I've seen you bring this energy about yourself of confidence and value in an environment, which we walked into this environment. I don't want to give full details. We walked into an environment where it was meant to be someone else who was in power. Like they had the ability to say yes or no to us about something. And I walked in there fully ready to be like a surrendered person.
I was so happy you were there.
I know, but I basically I did nothing to it. But I was there in moral support. But we walked in and I thought it was going to be a kind of, okay, this person is going to tell us what they want and we're going to try and adapt to make it happen so that we get it, but we're probably going to have to compromise. And Alexis walked in this place and, well, I walked in and she was already there, but I was in awe. Like I was watching her through this situation, and she managed to fully take power and control of what was happening in the room when the power dynamic in a natural setting wouldn't have been that way. It would have been the other way. And I just thought that was I remember talking about that to so many people after I was in that situation with you, because it is so hard to embrace exactly who you are and go into an environment where you should kind of be the one, no, not should be, but your tendency is to be. You feel like you are the less superior person in the room. But you did that. And like, I think it was such a beautiful example of how, and you brought feminine energy. You didn't even bring in, I'm going to meet masculine with masculine. Like you didn't do that. You leaned into the softness and like your like that side of things. And I just thought that was so beautiful to see. It really was. It was amazing.
Thank you. Though like Laura and I still talk about that moment.
It was a great moment.
It was a great moment. No, I genuinely, like, first of all, when I was younger, I went up to my mom and I was like, why do I have to call Steve Mr. So-and-so? Like, why can't I just call him by Steve? And I'm like 9 years old. My mom's like, call him Steve. Like, I don't care, you know? Like, I know that there's this level of like, they're here and I'm here. Even when I was a child, it was like the parents and me. My mom kind of always like started to poke at me to be like, you can be there too. Like you can meet them too. So I think that element really helped, like that belief. I think when everyone's looking for someone who's confident, and I've gotten myself into like not so good situations because I'm like, this person's so confident. They must know what they're talking about, you know? So I've learned that like confidence is a choice. It's not something you cultivate. It's actually something you get after you do the thing that people would call being confident.
Right.
It's the feeling you get after that. And then also I've learned a lot as far as marketing. I think there's like similar with like acting advice and parenting advice, learning about marketing and like people's subconscious desires and behaviors. And like, it's a $1 trillion industry. Like we drive down Sunset Boulevard and it's like,
everywhere.
Buy this, and I'm like, and don't text and drive for sure, God. Like, you know, it's just like everyone's trying to get our attention.
Yeah.
So I think there's a level of like knowing that people are looking for someone who truly believes in something and feels something. I love playing into being a woman and like having that presence, because I think that divine feminine actually is really powerful.
Yes.
And really more sturdy than I think people realize. Like as much as it's like nurturing and open-hearted, it's also, and creative, it's also very solid in
and
how
grounding.
it comes, and grounding
It's
in
like
how
Mother
it comes
Earth.
out.
It's
Exactly.
I feel like the feeling and the nature of Mother Earth and how we are grounded by her and how she encapsulates all of us. It's like that's the same qualities that the divine feminine has in us and in everybody. I loved watching you do that because it felt like it allowed me to lean into that so much more. And I think all of that comes with, that comes with being able to be emotional at the right times, being able to be vulnerable at the right times. Like when you end up being able to lean into that, you see it as a strength rather than a weakness.
Yeah.
Especially in those environments.
Have you, like on your journey, because now as you've become an entrepreneur and now you have this podcast, like what not hurdles, but what things have you started to experience that is like new in the space of business for you?
As an entrepreneur, honestly, everything. Like I never saw myself as being a businesswoman. I never in my life grew up and was like, even I thought I was going to be a dietitian in a hospital. Number one, that's what I was training to be. And even as that, I never saw myself as a businesswoman. I saw myself as a healthcare worker. And so in that respect, there was never I'm an entrepreneur or I'm, anything like that. Yeah, exactly. Even that movement, right? That's what the walking down with a briefcase type of person. And when I ended up being kind of, and I didn't say thrown into this because everything happened for a reason, but it was an unexpected turn that I took in my journey of becoming this. And so I have this tendency to feel like I'm living someone else's life. And I don't know whether you've ever felt that way, but I have this feeling that I'm almost like, and
it's not imposters.
A little bit of that.
Oh,
I guess
That's
it would be that.
That's an interesting way to put it.
I look at my life and I'm like, I don't even know whether this is the life I was supposed to be living. It feels so distant to me. It's almost like I'm learning how to live my life versus feeling like it's something natural that I'm doing. And so I've gone through a lot of ups and downs with it and I go through a breakdown like every month. I'm like, I think I should just like switch off my Instagram and just like go. And I have this thing of honestly being like, maybe I should just go to India and just really figure out who I am. And I'm like, running away to figure out who I am is not the answer. But
also that's a trick question.
That is a trick question. But I have found it really difficult. And, sitting in when people ask me to be on panels, for example, of being an entrepreneur or a female, I'm like, I feel uncomfortable. Yeah. I don't think you understand. I'm really new at this. I've got nothing to say. And so I'm starting to learn how to build my confidence in this area. I still feel like I'm at the beginning. Even doing this, I'm like, there's always that sense of not knowing whether you have something to say or not knowing whether what you say is valuable. And I shared about this recently where the only thing that pushed me to do it was knowing that whatever I was learning is wasted just being in me. Like whatever I have, whatever I've learned, whatever experiences I've been through, just harnessing it within me is not useful. It's actually detrimental because it creates ego in your body. Like it creates ego and stagnant energy. Ugh. Everything should flow.
Yeah.
That's also something I wanted to ask you. Like, how did you even get to a point where you felt confident in your abilities and felt like you were able to not only share it amongst the people that create this incredible community, which by the way, Alexis has an amazing community called We Are Warriors, and it's all females and it's empowering and it's all the things that you'd want to learn that you don't get taught in school. They teach in that and they discuss in that. But how did you get to a point of knowing that you have this information, but feel comfortable enough to open it out to so many other people and you stand in your power a lot. That's what I love about you.
I think when you don't give yourself a choice, I know that sounds kind of like
but like, give me an example, like, yeah.
With the podcast, well, first of all, it helped because the community was gated. And so I felt very safe in that sense where it wasn't like, because with being in the spotlight for 10 years now, it's like everything I do, it can't be a test run.
I know.
And it's like,
I know, it can't be.
It can't be a test run. It has to be great. Or people are going to be like, what the hell is she doing? Like she starts acting, she has to be great. Like, and then there's that idea of people, of course I'm privileged, of course. And so there's that level of like, she just got put there and all of that. So being able to learn how to truly and that's paradoxical, learn how to be a teacher, being a student to learning how to be a teacher was so special in that community because the girls held me just as much as I held them. Like it's very interactive. Like the girls raise their hand and we talk about different subjects. It's not, I've gotten to the point where I can really host like a full workshop without someone coming up.
That's
because
incredible.
It's repetition. I think one of the biggest secrets to anything is repetition. It's not like, yes, talent matters to an extent, but like if you can just be consistent.
You're right.
I've been doing the Friday call for 3 years now, and it's like, because of that, I'm a better speaker. I'm more confident in who I am because, and this is something I'm working on actually recently, and I want to know your opinion about this, is for so long, my life has been a performance that I've almost gone kind of like the anti-hero. It's like an anti-performance because as soon as you perform, you're on a stage and people critique you because it's a performance. But if I'm not performing, if I'm just being myself here, you don't have the right to critique it. You might, but it's none of my business anymore because I wasn't performing.
Right.
Does that make sense? Where it's like a weird like switch in perception. So that's what I've been testing with myself right now is, was that a performance or was that me speaking from an authentic place? And finding the difference of that is the levity because it takes the weight off of the judgments or opinions of how I said something or if I said something wrong. I'm also not attached. I have one of my favorite quotes in the world. I found it when I was like 17 on Tumblr. It's called "Strong Beliefs Loosely Held." And I think that's just how I live my entire life, where it's like, I have very strong beliefs, but if you give me something better, bye, like I'm gonna take that. Like I don't care. Like, but I do have strong beliefs, but I'm very, just like how I am with my identity nowadays. Like I don't, even with my style, it's like, I tried so hard to find myself out. I was like, I'm streetwear, I'm this, and it's just like, you can be it all. It really depends on the day. You can do it all. Like, and that's with personality, that's with speaking, that's with fashion, that's with identity. Like it all can change and evolve and be everything or nothing at the same time. And I think that's what's so beautiful. And I think for me, it's just been finding out where I can take the weight off. And I think you understand this too, where when you're speaking and something comes over you, a lot of people call it flow state in science. To me, that's channeling. That's not me anymore. Like, and people say, wow, what you did was amazing. Like, I'm pretty sure that experience you were talking about with Laura, like that was, I don't really think that was me. That was just needed. I was just open enough to be able to receive what needed to be said in that experience for us to get what was supposed to happen. And that also is huge to take the weight off. It's like, yes, I want to influence every scenario I'm in for my desire, but like whatever's meant to be is meant to be. And so if I'm supposed to say something to push this forward, it will happen because I'm open. But that's still not up to me. No. None of it's up to me, nor is it my responsibility. And so I know that sounds weird because it's these are the things I'm saying and it's coming through me, but the weight's off now because I'm like, I have a partnership with the all, God, whatever.
Yeah. I can honestly relate to that so much. The reason I actually started the podcast was because I was going on other people's podcasts and I would be so nervous to go on and I'd be thinking about like, I don't even know what I'm going to say. I have no idea what's even going to come out of my mouth. And it was weird for me because I went in so not confident and I would come out of these podcasts and I would speak to my mom or whoever and I'd be like, I didn't even know that I had that in me. I had no idea.
You learn new things from yourself.
Yes.
That's why I love it. That's why I do the community. That's why I'm obviously going to start a podcast too because it's like, this is way too fun.
Yeah, it's just
being able to channel.
And I listened back, people were like, what did you talk about? And I was like, I honestly cannot remember the words that came out of my mouth. And then I watch it back and I'm like, wow, I didn't even know I had the ability to vocalize how I felt or what I knew in that way. And that's the reason I ended up starting it because I loved having those conversations. I would come out of those podcasts and I'd be like, that was so beautiful to be able to open my heart in that way.
Exactly.
But in that way where you end up feeling like, I loved going in not knowing what I was going to talk about. I loved going in.
The just unknowing, being okay with the unknown lets the channeling happen so much easier as opposed to the self-planning.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It is.
The amount of time I have gotten in my own way.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, I know what to say. And God's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's true. And that flow state comes. And I feel whenever I think about, I feel like have been in that situation where I come out and I feel amazing about what's been shared and I've opened up my heart. That's happened on Jay's podcast where he asks me a question about our relationship and I answer and he's like, I didn't even know that you felt that way. And I'm like, oh crap. Like, oh no, I'm so sorry. And I actually did that on our last podcast. And it was almost to a point where I was like, should I get that taken off because I don't know whether that's going to come across right, but I didn't. But that's how open when you get into a conversation and you get asked questions that spark something in you or that trigger something in you.
And it forces you to show up.
I know.
I also think something special I really learned with you and Jay was shortly after that meeting, you invited me and my friends to come over here.
Yeah.
For that like small gathering. And so much happens when you create a space for it. And I noticed that when, I'm going to butcher her name.
Genevieve. Yes.
Genevieve.
Yeah.
Love her. By the way, when she plays
Just
Rise,
phenomenal.
that was like one of my all-time favorite songs in 2020. So I was like, I'm crying. It was the space that you created that invited the moments in the channel. So like, even now it's like you've created the space in which now it can come. So I think you know, I make it I'm sure everyone does this to an extent, but it's like, I light incense, I light candles. Like I make sure that I'm creating a place where spirit like wants to come.
Yeah. And where you feel at ease and at comfort, because as soon as anxiety comes over or as soon as you're too much in your head, you almost forget what you even have to offer. And I get in that space a lot where it's almost that something else I'm not allowing myself to be and to accept my own self because I'm so nervous about how I'm showing up that actually the version of me that I love and that I actually want to be shared is almost suppressed because I'm thinking too much about what I'm showing up as and who I am.
Oh, it's so true. And that's what I've been battling with, but like seeing in myself, especially with, you know, podcasts in general, what I've also seen is, I actually learned this in a summit last month. Forced deep talk is this same coin of small talk.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I'm in a conversation where I'm like, I know you're trying to get the point across that like you're spiritual and deep and like I respect that. This is not authentic.
Right.
And so learning to not force the vulnerability has been huge for me because, you know, with people wanting to monetize my story on their own platforms, whatever, and it's all good. And it's like, I invite it. Sometimes there's been scenarios where, you know, when you have a vulnerability hangover and you're like, that starts to feel like a script.
Yes.
Not who you are.
Yes.
Oh, I had to learn that, not the hard way, but I learned it recently. And I was like, no more, because I think what we're now looking for is just good conversations.
Good conversation, you know, and integrity.
Deep trauma.
Like, no, yes, exactly.
Good conversations. All I need.
But also when you end up, and I heard this quote, and this is something that I've always tried to, every time I feel like I move away from it, I try to go towards it. Again, it's kind of like my, what's the word? Like north light. What's the word for it? North light.
North Star.
Yeah, North Star. Thank you. Integrity is when your words, your actions, and your thoughts are all aligned. And I've noticed that whenever I've heard people speak in that way, and whenever I've felt something when people speak, it's because those three are in alignment. And so and that's why I feel whenever I've seen you in that state, whenever I've heard people speak and it's affected me, it only affects the heart when all three of those are aligned. That's when you have the most power to penetrate someone else's heart, to actually affect them and inspire them deeply. Is when you're living it, you're breathing it, you're saying it, and you're feeling it at the same time.
And that takes a lot of prep.
It takes a lot of practice.
It takes a lot of
practice. Consistency.
Consistency
That's what it is.
Showing up. Like every morning, I was writing in my journal the other day, and I'm just like, every morning, like I conquer me and my connection, basally, because it's like every morning all I want is connection, and yet the little
me and my connection,
like so this little me and me is just like, no, like I don't want to do it, and like running away from the one thing I want. I'm just like this all day until I finally like sit down and I write, or I finally do the thing I want, or I dance, or whatever it is. But it's like we want connection so bad, and it's so funny that we just run around circles like all day. So having that worth ethic to show up for yourself in that way is what's created me today. And
the confidence in you.
Yeah, because it is the confidence.
It is because
you prove to yourself you can show up for yourself.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I realized that's why I didn't have faith in myself. Like that's why I had this habit of giving everybody else my power or believing that somebody else knew me better or could say things better than me, because I was not completing things. I was not every single day following through with what I said I was going to do. And so the relationship that I had with myself was so terrible. And why would I believe myself? Just like I wouldn't believe a guy who kept telling me, I'm going to be there at this time. I'm going to be there at this time. I'm going to show up in this way. And they never show up. Yeah. But for some reason, I keep thinking I should have a good relationship with myself without doing that work. And so I've been working on that, like actually getting things started. Like I have this fear of starting things, which I think a lot of people have. Podcast, book, all the things that I've done. It's been what you said, throwing myself into it, making myself accountable.
You finally say it out loud, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, exactly. You finally say it out loud. You have people who make you accountable. Yeah. You create that environment where you actually have accountability. And I think a lot of the time we end up not telling people things or shying away from, even if we're like, even if it's something like, I want to get healthy and I want to go for a walk for 30 minutes every day. Telling someone, or at least telling one person or telling your community that this is what I'm trying to do, it makes you accountable and it helps give you that. And it doesn't mean that people shouldn't give you grace, but if you struggle with accountability to yourself, it's useful being able to share that with other people so that you have, at least that starts you off.
It starts you off, I had to do. And then what happens is that once you get into that routine, then you can start to build trust with your intuition.
Yes.
So you can say, okay, I've been so consistent with myself. Today, I don't really feel good. I'm not going to go on that walk today. It doesn't mean that I'm not abiding to the, this work ethic and this trust in myself. It's just, I'm listening to my intuition now. Mm-hmm. So there's like that progression from like, I trust myself now to finish things and get things done and do things and change and grow. And then you have this beautiful, leeway where you can just be like, I'm okay today and not have guilt because you trust yourself now.
Yes. And your voice gets stronger. Yep. The more you actually allow
and the rest days can actually be rest,
Yes. And the more you end up listening to your own voice or actually trying to tune into it, the louder that gets and the quieter other people's voices get. And again, that's something I'm trying to practice because I've quietened my own voice for so long that I am trying to tell it it's okay. Like it's okay for you to speak. It's okay for you to actually voice how you're feeling because I'm here to listen to you now. And it's having like everything that you have in a relationship with someone else. It's just, I don't know why that coin doesn't drop. I feel like I'm getting all these phrases wrong. Coin doesn't drop. I don't know why this is going to be like a common thing, I think, in the podcast where it's like getting those phrases. That pin, the pin, not the coin. Pin?
The wolf that cried boy.
Kidding. I don't know why that doesn't drop earlier, that actually like the more you listen to yourself, the stronger your connection with yourself gets. And what you were saying about your intuition, it's hard to know what is intuition and what's not if you aren't spending that time in that relationship.
Exactly. Like that concept of intuitive eating. Yeah. I didn't understand it forever because I didn't trust myself, nor did I have a relationship with my intuition. So you have to build that trust and respect. And then you can trust the intuition, and then you can move with the current of your life as opposed to moving against it, because you build the current that you're moving in, but you have to build it for a very long time. And then I think there's so many different, just like how we have seasons on, Earth and stuff, it's the same way with us. Like we have seasons where we're hibernating and going through deeper, darker work, or sometimes we're, flying on top of the world. And for me, it's learning to actually accept where I am as opposed to being like, I'm working so much. God, I wish I was in bed. I'm in bed. I wish I was working. Like that I hate. And I've really made it a priority to not swing with the pendulum and actually become the pendulum and truly just be like, I'm here.
Embrace it.
100% embrace it. And like, how we were speaking, we were going to go to New York next week separately, but hey, we can just say it's together.
But together, yeah.
Like that is starting to be a very packed week. And it's like, now I'm enjoying this week of like, I get to go home and have dinner, and just relax and trusting that I'm going to show up at the right time. Because I think also too, my sister Allie went through this last week where she was like, I'm tired today. Like I shouldn't be tired today. Yeah. And I was like, but you have nothing to do today. So I think your body is saying it's safe to just rest. So stop thinking that you have to always be on, and trust that when you need to be on, you will.
Yes.
And so that will release everything. And so now when I feel tired, when I have tired days, I'm like, okay, Like it's great. It's kind of like a woman's period. It's like, she's never betrayed me. I'm always terrified when she's going to come, but she's never betrayed me so far. So we're good. Yeah. But it's like, it's just trusting that it's happening now because it can.
Yes.
And then when you need to show up in a different way, you will. Mm-hmm. And separating that has been huge because it's taken, once again, that guilt.
Yes.
Of like, I shouldn't be tired right now. What's wrong? Should I power through this? Like, where's the caffeine?
And they do say that it's when you're in tune with your body knows when you're about to take a break, or even if your mind knows that this is when a holiday's coming up or a vacation's coming up, or there's time to breathe. That's actually when a lot of people get illnesses, or they end up getting colds and coughs because they're in the state of their mind knows, finally I'm able to rest, finally I'm able to feel.
Yeah.
But obviously it's not convenient because you're on vacation and you're ill. But a lot of people do get that. People have found that when they end up actually relaxing their body, that's when their body feels like it's okay for me to show you what's wrong.
Now. Like, I think that too, like when you get more self-aware and introspective and grounded into your body, I have, friends who are like, I'm just so sensitive now. And I was like, that's good. That's a good sign.
Yes.
And accept that sensitivity because we're so used to, to an extent, like being numb is the goal, as opposed to swinging and being the pendulum.
I love what you said about that because you can sometimes fall into that trap of, oh, I've got a lot going on and there's so much that I have to do, versus being like, I'm so grateful that I have. And it actually touched on something that I heard you say. I think it was on the We Are Warriors page, and it was about when you get opportunities in your life that come to you that you've been wanting, even if they don't end up happening, instead of you saying, I didn't get that, or this didn't happen in my life, you say, I'm so grateful that life even showed me this was possible.
I didn't even know it was possible.
Yes.
And I think it's that whole concept of being ready to be ready, just being happy and being ready. I think especially with girls, when you're about to go on a vacation, here's something everyone can relate to. And you're like, I can get my hair done. I'll get my nails done before. It's that preparation that's so fun. The getting ready before the event.
Yes.
Like all of that is also a reflection of manifestation in life. And so when I learned that through like this one experience where I was going to get this huge campaign and I didn't, I was like, I didn't even know that they were thinking of me. Like, that's so nice. Like, that's so kind. And maybe not this time, but to now know that that's possible. And then also having the deep, deep belief that whatever is coming in replace of that is even better. Because
it's a hard pill to swallow though.
It's a really hard pill to swallow, but like, it's my favorite thing to believe is like life just keeps getting better.
How do you balance that? Because when you were saying that, I was thinking, every time I get an opportunity, I'm like, I can't believe I got that. Like, but how do you balance? Well, I don't know. I don't even know how. Like, how did I even get on their radar? How does this person even know me? Wait, like, are you sure they've got the right person? So how do you balance that kind of the thought process that I'm having versus changing it into a positive thing of like, it's not because you doubted yourself that you can't believe it. I feel like I doubt myself, and that's why I am surprised that, oh, wow, they even thought about me. Yours is like, oh, wow, I can't believe they thought about me.
My belief is like, I already believe in myself. I already see myself. And so when people, give me an opportunity, I'm just like, oh, great, you see me too. Like, that's my belief because I've worked so hard. And so it's like, I truly love myself because I've put through so much work. And so for me, it's more like, oh, like you see it too. Like, cool. And that sounds, I guess a lot of people could look at that from like a negative, maybe conceited perspective, but it's a groundedness and an unwaveringness in the potential of joy that I can bring to others' experiences.
And what gave you that? Because I think this would be really helpful for people, and I would love to know, like, what were the few things? I know consistency is something we spoke about, being consistent with yourself, building up confidence and trust in yourself.
Your community is a reflection of you. So like, if you have friends that are just amazing, pat yourself on the back because you're a reflection of them. Like, I have literally the coolest family, like ever. And they are all wanting to become legends in life because why not? Like that's always what I lean towards is just like, why not? Why not like be the top level in this video game? Why not? Like it's like we're going to be, we're saying goodbye either way. So you might as well give 100%. And then also like learning that it's a paradox where it's like, I'm giving 100%, but I'm also practicing non-attachment.
Yes.
Paradoxical. Once again, paradoxes.
Yes.
Yeah. All truths are but half truths. And so like, it's definitely the work ethic that you have. And that doesn't have to be in work. Like for me, my trust in myself comes from my ability to use my body. I wouldn't know how deeply I can invest myself into something if it wasn't for me being a ballerina for the last 20 years.
That takes a lot of commitment.
A lot of commitment.
Consistency.
And maybe it might not be more of a physical work ethic. It still proves to me that I can do something 100%.
Exactly.
So whatever it is, find something you can do 100%. Just show yourself that you can do something 100%.
And it will kind of seep into everything else.
It will seep into everything else because everything is everything. It's all connected. It's all
true.
Either everything is sacred or none of it is. And I decided that all of it is. So if I can find things that I want to give 100% of myself into, things that are worth 100% of myself, come to me.
Yes. Yeah, come to me.
Come to me.
No, that's so true. I do think that when you end up and picking one area of your life, like, okay, let's say your whole life is shambles. Let's say every part of your life right now, let's just say every single part of your life right now, you do not feel is going well.
I have this saying called hit rock bottom as fast as possible. One of the girls in my community said that. And I think that's so genius because I'm like, once you're down on your knees, you can stay there.
Yeah.
Stay there.
But then there's also only upwards that you can go, right?
That's why I'm like, hit rock bottom as fast as possible because it's only up from there.
True.
Like, just go. Like, stop trying to hold on to something that's not in flow. I think people are so scared of pain when they're experiencing more pain from trying not to be in pain than actually just hit. You know what I mean?
Just fall so that we can get back
just
up.
Fall. Exactly. Just go.
Yeah, I think even if you just pick one area of your life, like pick one thing in your life, like you said, to be consistent with, to commit to value, to really put your all into, show yourself you can do that.
Body, it could be health, whatever it is.
I've noticed that even with working out, it's like, okay, when I decided every single morning, every single day I need movement in my life and I've committed to that movement, I've realized now I can't live without it. But it's also helped me realize, like, other people say to me, wow, you're so like committed to having that in your life. And I think, yes, if I can be committed to having that in my life, I know I can channel that same energy into this and in this and in this. It's just whether I have made the choice and made it a priority in my life to do so.
Because the vibration is the same vibrate. Like it's just, when we realize that nothing's solid, everything's just vibrating at different rates. Everything has a rhythm. Then you realize that if you just get yourself into a certain vibration, it's going to link into everything else in your life. That also took weight off of my life. There was a huge belief that I had for a very long time, which is like, you have to struggle and work hard to be successful.
Yes.
That belief, not fun. Don't believe it anymore. But there's a difference between hard work and working hard. And for me, that was huge when I realized, like, I actually really enjoy giving 100% of myself, but I don't like hard work. Distinguishing that two, and then knowing where you would like to work hard in your life, like really dedicate yourself. Once again, maybe the part of your life that you were trying so hard to put the pieces together just needed you to change your perspective completely, because it's not about trying to shift your thoughts. It's about shifting completely away from it. Like, that's what manifestation talks about so much. It's like, you don't deny what is, like, transmute it into something higher, like alchemize it,
I mean, I love it when you talk about manifestation as well. It also helps you detach from things, from the results of things, because when you receive it, you understand that it's given to you from a higher place, right? Like, to be able to receive. And again, I feel like I've had goods and bads of feeling like a person watching into my life, being that person who's like, this doesn't feel like my life, because it also makes me feel so detached from what I receive and what I don't get, and what I get and what I don't get. So you're not fully
like enjoying any of it.
Yeah, I feel like I
hovering
appreciate it, but I then am also very aware of, like, and I think also, and I'm sure you can relate to this, when you end up being around people who have had extreme success in different parts of their life, or have in what other people's eyes is everything that you could possibly ever want, you then also see that being at that place doesn't bring that joy and contentment that you actually are looking for, unless you are channeling it in that way, and unless you are detaching from the perception of it and the fruits of it. You're actually choosing to live through, like, the essence of what you're receiving from it. Like, what is it actually doing for my spirit, for my heart? How am I being able to channel that and use that in my offering to other people? And so I think I've seen that so much, where you can get everything materially and still be so deficient internally, that I am very aware of that, to the point where I try to always remember that every single day, where I'm like, yes, I love living here and I love the luxuries that I've eventually managed to get in my life. But if those things go away, is it going to affect my heart or my spirit? No, it's not in any way. And so it's actually, you can appreciate, you can have so much deep gratitude for everything that you have, but understand there's a place for each thing. Like, know that material things will bring you material benefits. Know that the spiritual things that you do will actually fuel and nourish your heart. Know that love can fuel your heart, but the material things will only bring material benefits.
Exactly.
And you have to learn that those things that can be temporary in life.
Those are fantastic too.
They are great.
The material manifestations, fantastic.
But they're temporary. And
they're
so you're
temporary.
looking for permanent happiness with things that are temporary. And that's where we end up kind of losing our way of putting energy into the wrong things, or putting our energy and focus into the wrong things and expecting the wrong thing in return.
Exactly.
It's like bad expectations in relationships.
Yeah, exactly. There's this quote that my god sister told me, Ali, I'm not sure where it's from, but
I love Ali, by the way.
She's wonderful. Pity the rich and famous as they have nothing to but their head against. And I think to an extent, it's like that is true. Like when you quote unquote have everything, there's nothing to go up against. And so then you start creating these things to go up against, that it's what we call drama and these things that don't really. And so I'm just grateful. And I think that's why, when you build that work ethic with yourself, you get to learn how to overcome and like rise. Yeah. And that rising is the best high in life I've ever experienced. Like that and thinking new thoughts. Love that. But that rise is, to me, the epitome of success. Like, I just want to continue feeling that. And then, so letting go of the idea of awards or these, different levels in society, like all of that is wonderful because I think they're good gauges on things, and it's fun to have. But that is a benefit of the rising.
And I do find though that the more that you end up getting, and this is a notion that I've heard through all my friends who, as they are gaining more abundance in their life, you have more of a fear of losing it. And
that's what I've been dealing with recently.
Yeah,
actually.
you have this like, and I know even my sister or my friends who feel like, oh my gosh, my life, I've got everything that I want in my life. I have my husband, I have my children, I have this life that feels almost too perfect. Something's going to go wrong. Like I feel that, and I've had conversations with people where they're literally crying like, this feels too good. This feels too good to be true. And I am so scared for my, that something is going to go wrong. I'm so scared of what I'm going to lose. And it's true. You do. The more that you get in your life, and especially when it comes to relationships, when you feel like you've got, the children that you've always dreamt of, let's say, or the partner that you've always dreamt of, the situation that if you've come from nothing and you end up manifesting all the things that you want in life, how do you detach from that fear of what if it all goes away? What if it all leaves me?
I think that's where really becoming at peace with death, because you can't really live unless you face death. And there's this beautiful quote, and it's like, the idea is to stay in a constant departure while always arriving. Yeah. And it's really profound. But it's basically saying as soon as we get, we lose. That's the rhythm of life. And it's scary, very scary. And it's what I'm seeing in my own life too, where I'm like, I've now accumulated such a beautiful relationship, beautiful career, and beautiful team. And I'm like, this is so good to be true.
This is so amazing.
So now, once again, my goal is getting out of my own way and showing up every single day, because it always just goes back to that. I think that's what's so beautiful of having an artist heart, of living in the moments where you're already nostalgic for them. Being presently nostalgic, I think, is one of the most beautiful feelings I've ever had in my life. And as much as it's scary, just like hate and love are but of the same coin, just a different degree. Same with fear and love. It's showing that you care, it's just the other side of love. Because really, the idea of what I think society thinks of as hate is actually just complete absence, mind of, you're just not, you don't even exist. That to me is the most accurate form of what we think hate is. For me, hate is still a very fiery version of love. And same with fear. It's showing that you care. And so once again, that's where I always go back to documentation, writing. I love hearing my own thoughts. I love writing. I love recording things. I think we are tainted in this world today because everything's being documented, but are the right things being documented?
I know. And journaling can actually do, and I wanted to speak about something else that you said, but when it comes to journaling, I feel it takes a while to actually show up and strip back who like that person that you are writing as just in, if you're writing as someone who thinks just in case someone sees this, what am I writing? Just in case this is read one day.
Remember, that's performance.
Yeah. And so if you are writing from a place of performance, you will never see your true self. But like stripping that back, it can be so scary to see what has been hiding in your heart and inside your mind, and to really come to face with that. I think that's the only time when you get to that point, that's when you're actually starting.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is the point that you're starting.
That's it.
And what you were saying about fear and losing and about showing up, I think whenever I think about that way, because you were one of the few people that I have been able to talk about death with in that way. Me and you have had this conversation before. Every single day since I have left home, before that, I never used to even think about death. I maybe thought about it when my granddad passed away. That was when I was young.
A far away
feels like something that like I can't even relate to.
Yeah.
And then when I started studying the Vedas, and then when I moved away from home, it was that point, which by the way was over 7 years ago. Every single day since that time I moved, I've thought about death. The moment that I wake up, because I'm so far away from people, because of the only reason I actually look at my phone is I'm like, let me just make sure everything's okay, because I'm not
alive still. Okay,
yeah, exactly. Let me check I haven't got any messages. Like there is all that I have had, and there has not been one day. And I tell people that, and they're like, that's a bit morbid. And I'm like, no, it's been
not morbid at all.
The most freeing thing, because we don't prepare for the things that are the most inevitable in life. There are 4 things: death, disease, birth, and something else, which I'll find out.
Creation or creativity or no.
Yes, maybe.
Like, something art.
Something along the lines of that. But definitely death. Death is the one thing
definitely
death. Death is one of the things which is so certain, right?
Yeah.
But we shy away from it.
It's the only certain thing.
It's the only certain thing. Yes, it's the only certain thing that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But
we're like,
no, it's true. It is the only certain thing in life. But it is something that we try and move away from. And it has been the biggest blessing to have that in my mind, because now when things are happening with my family, when things are happening in my life that are unexpected or that I don't know whether I'm going to be there for, I detached from it so much, thinking, you know what? There is nothing I can do. I'm this side of the world. There is nothing I can do. There's no physical way that I will know to be able to be there when anything happens. And the weird thing is, when I let go of that attachment and that fear, I have been there for every single thing I needed to be there for. Somehow, when I wasn't even supposed to be there, I ended up there. Whenever anybody in my family went through something, somehow I've ended up there. And that was when I fully realized that I just have no control over this. And when I started, and the thought of death
I remember when I realized that.
Yeah, right? Like I literally cannot control this in any way. And I surrendered to that. And by the way, that took me pretty much crying every single week thinking about it. It took me going through a lot of emotions every single week of thinking about the possibilities of what could happen, because my mind can run away like that a lot. And actually going through that, and I remember me and Jay have spoken about this a lot, where every time I think about certain things in my life, I am very emotional. I cry, hence a good cry. I cry a lot. And every time I think about the possibilities or how I'm going to feel in those situations, I try and stop myself from thinking about it. And Jay would be like, the only way we're going to be able to be okay at the point that these things happen is if we kind of live it through every single day slowly in our mind, like to keep, again, consistency and practice.
Yeah.
If we start training our mind to understand that this is the natural part of life, this is what happens, it's just as beautiful. It's not the end, if you believe that, it's not the end. And so constantly thinking about the people in your life leaving, the people in your life may not be there forever.
Do you remember The Land Before Time?
No, I don't.
It's the dinosaur movie. I don't know if you guys. There was this one scene, and it's where like Littlefoot like loses his mom, and the uncle or whatever is like, that's the thing with life. We don't all end up in the end together. And I was like, once again, how heartbreaking that is, but also how beautiful that is.
No, it is so beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
And the fear that you were talking about of, when you said you just end up showing up, and when we're talking about losing things, the only way I've been able to manage that fear is by giving my all to everybody that I love so deeply. Mm-hmm. Like to know that I have given my all to my mom, to my dad, to my grandma, whoever it is that I'm feeling those like the uncertainties about. I'm like, well, let me go 100% into those relationships. Let me make every single year better and better with our relationship. And so I think that's actually how I've lost the fear, by knowing that I will have no guilt after they leave, by knowing that I have had that best interaction with them, the best possible years that I could have with them, to have that, to be able to nourish that and know that stops my fear. And of course, it still brings sadness, but the fear aspect is something which I think is debilitating, whereas sadness is something which I don't find sadness debilitating in myself. I feel like it's something that is an emotion I can release, but fear is something that can actually stop you from being or doing. And I think fear of even death can stop you from getting close to someone. Fear of losing someone can stop you from harnessing a relationship with someone.
Because you just don't want to face it.
Yeah.
You don't want to face the death. Not them, but the death.
The death. And I used to not call at the beginning when I used to miss my family, and this is such a minor example, but just to give you context, like when I used to miss my parents or I used to miss someone and I was upset about something, I wouldn't call them, because I almost wanted to distance myself from it
so you could prepare.
So I could prepare, but also so I could pretend like it wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't want them to know I was upset. I didn't want to address the fact that it was something I was dealing with. And so distancing myself from them, I thought made the pain easier. But it obviously doesn't. But I think the addressing, the showing up is really what helped me get over that fear.
Yeah. And then, once you really start to think about death, you start to see it everywhere. Every day there's a rebirth and a death. That's the beautiful thing about life. We see it in nature. We see it in our animals. We see it in relationships even. We see it from a spiritual sense too. So I think when you're not afraid of it, you can see that it has such a profound purpose and that we need it in order to create what we've created here.
To really have that, I feel like YOLO is a term that's used way too much, but to honestly
Never thought I would hear you.
No,
YOLO.
but I find it such a, it's a term which we use very loosely.
Yeah.
But it's something which actually, if you think about it, that
profound.
means you show up 100% every single day.
My friend, he was at a party.
I never thought I'd hear you say YOLO. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But the essence of it, it's something.
No. I know. So my friend, he was at a party and he was talking to this guy, and he was telling me about this story, and he was basically saying, I felt guilty. In those moments where you're just kind of saying nothing to fill the air, and you're just I don't even want to listen to me right now. Why am I speaking? And, they finally end the conversation. And then a week later, that guy dies in a motorcycle crash.
Oh my God.
And he was like, if I would have known that I was taking up some of his last moments on earth, I would have fucking slapped myself silly and made sure to have either an authentic connection with him or let him go and do that with someone else. But it really does. Once again, death is the biggest perspective shift of
100%
I've ever experienced in my life. I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't experience death.
And not in a sad way.
That's
why
sad.
I think I just want to add this, because it's suddenly gone to we're talking about death.
But sadness isn't sad. It's beautiful. I am so in love with sadness in the sense where it's it shows how much we care.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful.
Yeah. I've had to learn to embrace that so much. And again, this is part of why I wanted to do this, is because I feel things so deeply and I am very emotional with how I feel them, but I feel from a young age, I suppressed it a lot. And so when I started understanding myself better and when I started feeling more comfortable in my own skin, it slowly started showing up in places I wasn't expecting me to. So I would end up crying when I really didn't want to. Or didn't
stub your toe?
Yeah,
you're I don't know if this is from stubbing my toe.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. And the more I felt I was connected to myself, the more I was in tune with my emotions and the more I was able to feel.
And control them too.
Yes.
Yeah, it's never fun having that anxiety attack right before you're supposed to show up. Because you're oh no, there I go.
Yeah.
And you're trying to reel yourself in you're fishing. That's never fun as well. That's why when it comes up, if you can feel it, Feel it. That's why I love
What's your way of releasing?
Breath work. 100%.
Is that your if you have to say your
go-to? It's the thing I hate doing the most, so it's what I need the most.
Yeah.
Breath work. It is, there's a lot of variations of it, and I fear when people, after they hear this, they're going to Google, and some girl's going to go and do some weird breath.
Have you done the Prima breath work or the...
I got trained by this guy. It's very simple. It's just breathing 70% into the lowest part of your belly, 30% to your chest, and release. And you can go as fast and intense,
or as slow as you want. And what's really cool is it's similar to meditation. Like you get to a point where, you know, sometimes you already feel amazing and you're going into breath work and you barely do it because you're just like, I feel grounded right now. And that was the whole purpose of it. So I'm going to listen to this music and just vibe. Or you're going into it just being like, I got to do it, whatever. It's an active meditation. That's why I liked it, because it gives me something to do with my body, which I love and prefer. And I'll have this crazy cathartic experience and I'll start crying and so much comes out. And I'm just like, well, that was a Tuesday I did not expect, but like, I guess that was supposed to happen. And I think that's what's so also beautiful, weirdly enough, with trauma, where it's like it comes out in these moments and it feels so good when you accept that it's coming, because you're like, I'm alive, like this feels so good, I care, this feels so good, I loved, this feels so good.
Yes. And I think you're right. When we end up trying to feel so numb that we try not to feel at all. Like there's so much in life because of everything.
Which I get that.
So do I.
Yeah, I get that.
Because there's so much to feel. You hear negative things all the time. You're hearing so much pain in the world. And so it's easier to be numb, but you can't grow being numb. You have to feel to be able to move. And again, like I love the thing of emotions being energy in motion. It's like you're meant to be releasing. You're meant to be moving through. And actually breath is... If you think about, breath is life, and breath is also the way that you control your emotions. If you think about when you get sad or angry or anything, your breath changes with it. Yeah. And in the same way, when you're able to control your breath or you use your breath in the right way, it can help you to either suppress or release emotion.
Exactly. I learned that actually in acting because I had a scene, TMI, but it was not a scene that I survived in, literally. And so I had to go through that process of dying. And you know, I'm doing the short breaths and I started to go into a panic attack. Yeah. And I was like, it is so crazy how the body is in so much more control than we realize in that sense, where like the breath can really completely change your emotional state. It is a profound.
Even just taking 3 deep breaths. Every time I think about how I'm feeling or if I'm getting overwhelmed, I'm like, take 3 deep breaths. And it changes my entire day by doing those 3 breaths.
Okay, it's so simple that you're just like, every day you're just like dumb. Like
reminders that you need every single day, right? Okay, so you are a breathwork person. Do you cry a lot, or is that not? You do cry a lot.
Yeah. Okay, well, okay, the thing was like I didn't.
Yeah.
And then I was proud of that because I was like, I don't feel
I'm not
anything.
a crier.
I don't know. And then I started to get jealous of like my friends who were so in tune with everything and could just cry at like watching their friend perform or just watching a children's movie.
Wait, does this mean I don't care as much because I'm not pouring my eyes out?
Yeah. So then surprisingly, like the tools like breath work or like yoga or meditation or writing, that's what started to open my vessel up. And so now I make it, weirdly enough, a priority. Like anytime I feel like I'm about to cry, I'm like, bring it.
Bring it on.
Bring it. Like I'm ready. I'm here. I'll play sad music for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna invoke this in you. Yeah.
I want it because, you know, selfishly as an actress, like I want to be able to access that. But also it's like, you see that with children, you know, then they feel like crying. They're like,
they just bawl it out. Yeah.
They just go. And I envy that. And I'm like, I want to be able to do that. So when I need to show up, I can, and I don't have this fear of the worst parts of myself showing at the wrong time, because we are ruled by what's buried and remaining in us in the deepest core. And so bringing those up in a space that's on your own time and safe is the key to really being in power of yourself and like controlling your mind instead of it controlling you.
Yeah, meditation was definitely that space for me. That's probably where I first started feeling most comfortable crying, because you're on your own, you're getting into a deeper space by yourself. And also, I mean, listening to Jahnavi, there's a part of her, and giving context to everyone, Jahnavi is one of my closest friends, but she's also a meditation singer. She's a gift to life. Her voice will just, and again, because I personally feel the reason her voice hits so deeply is because she is in alignment. She works to be in alignment all the time. And so her voice, you hear one note coming out and it hits your heart to the deepest part where you are just pouring out all the things that you have kept suppressed for so long.
That one lyric, like, I don't want to go around anymore. I was like,
I feel this so much. No more. I don't want to go round no more. Like, I'm good.
Exactly. And when you end up sitting by yourself, like, I feel like that's another, for anyone who finds it difficult to release emotion, spend 15 minutes just sitting by yourself and listening to what's happening in your body. Just spend 15 minutes. Spend 10 minutes a day doing that for a week. I think 15
minutes is good enough, to be honest. Yeah. Especially with the people in like LA and the big cities and whatever. But it's like, that's having really all you need.
Like, start there. If you're finding it difficult to release that emotion, spend 10 minutes with yourself every day with no one else around and see what comes up.
Yeah. What I found too is a way I trick myself is I stopped timing myself, and I just, as soon as I wake up, I go out to the balcony and I just sit in almost that like dream sleepy state. And so I don't even know. State. It's perfect because there's no timer. So I'm not trying to like complete an X amount of time. So it could be in 9 minutes I'm there. I could be there for 30 minutes. I have no idea. Yeah. And that is like a really good trick for me, because as soon as I get my coffee and I start moving, it's game over. I'm going to have to do like a breath work to be able to get back in.
Your brain changes into a different mode.
A different mode. But right when you wake up, it's just like, get yourself, just sit down, do nothing. Like that's it. That's it. Because trying to go from doing something to doing nothing is really hard. But when you're in that waking moments of life,
it's perfect
to trick yourself. Just,
oh my God, I could talk to you about so much stuff, but I feel like I've taken up so much of your time already. But wait, I wanted to ask you. So basically I've categorized criers into I think 6 categories. So I want you to tell me what kind of crier you are, and ideally give us your best version of your crier. Okay. So there's one, which is the loud, ugly crier, which is then there's the breathless, which is I just don't know.
That's my sister.
Okay. Then there's the sniffler and snotty, the one who's kind of just blubbery and all over the place. There's water coming from the eyes, from the nose, from every part.
Every hole.
Every hole is just weeping. Then there's the high pitch. You know, when you suddenly go 5 pitches. I just don't know. So there's the high pitch. There's the I'm not crying, you're crying, I have something in my eye crier. And then the last one is the silent crier in a bathroom. Nobody knows. You come out, the eyes are puffed, but still nothing has happened.
I'm the last one.
Are you the last one?
Well, not in a weird, I'm not loud. I have the one dramatic tear.
Oh my gosh,
and then everything starts coming out. But see, I'm ridiculous because I'm oh, that's good. You know, I'm conscious. I'm that's good for being an actor, that one dramatic tear. I'm so self-aware that I'm you're such a little shit. But it starts out as
it's the silent pussy crier.
It's the silent, I love the feeling of the tears coming down my face.
It feels like it's washing things away.
So I love to just sit there, and then
I love to just sit there.
My sister, Allie, she's the and I'm just you're okay.
I thought you would be a pretty crier. That's so annoying about you, honestly.
Oh no,
you're I'm just patting them away.
The little cheeks. No, I mean, I definitely cry, but it's not snotty or anything.
Got it.
It sounds ridiculous. I'm ridiculous.
Just so
I'm
everybody
sorry.
knows, Alexis is the silent, beautiful crier that you would always expect her to be.
I guess I talk through it.
Yeah, no.
If that makes a difference, I'm
But the physical, you still look cute doing it, basically.
I think I'm a pretty good crier. In that sense. I don't know. I'm
a pretty cute crier.
See, this is the downside of
it's good.
being aware of everything as a tool, every emotion as a tool.
You must even have to look in the mirror when you're crying to be okay, is that right?
Exactly. When I laugh, is that an authentic laugh? What's that? How did I get here?
To assess yourself, actually.
Yeah, well, when I first went to an acting class, I was I've been learning about this shit for years, guys.
Yeah.
Did you just make us meditate? What are we doing right now? Self-awareness? I got this in the bag. It was just more so the memorizing the lines that I was just not excited for.
Wait, when was the last time that you cried? When was it?
Oh, is that embarrassing if I said on the way here? I found this song. I had just one tear though.
Yeah,
I was I can't.
Yeah,
but there's this song. I have no idea who it's from. It's from some Indian tribe. I don't know. But you know the movie Brave?
Yes,
the redhead where she's riding on her horse? It's kind of like that. Where it's na 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 na. And I was driving through the canyon I want a tambourine and
That's so
a skirt right now.
That's a good time to have cried. I'm so happy that you cried on the way here. Wonderful.
I love feeling those beautiful moments to the extreme, and that's I think what I love so much about sadness is the most beautiful moments of my life have sadness in them.
Yeah,
and
they
so
do.
It's wow,
Well, nothing in this world is fully anything. right? Like there's always what you're saying, a juxtaposition of there's extreme goodness and extreme whatever. I don't even like to say badness or bad, but there's always that.
It's like hot and cold. Like, how can you define where cold ends?
You can't
and hot
define
begins?
it.
You can't define it. It's just a different degree of the same thing.
And I think the important thing about that is not labeling it as being something that is bad or good. Like having what you said, like crying is beautiful. Sadness is beautiful. All those things that we have been trained and conditioned to believe are not good things are actually the things that we really need to come into our own.
Yeah. And of course, like when you first start on that journey, it feels out of control. And I think that's what a lot of people feel. They're like, I don't understand. Because when I first started to actually acknowledge everything and feel my emotions, I was terrified that this was what I was going to be for the rest of my life. But you then have this wonderful relationship with your emotions. I didn't even know it was possible. Yeah. I'm just like, this is wonderful. I want to, because I want to feel. And it's proof that I care. And I want to care. And I think that's the connection there is like, I love that. You know, like I feel because I want to care, because I want to see growth and evolution in our society. And so to not feel would be the biggest crime in my opinion, but it's also hard. And I think there is a place for all of it. Compartmentalization, disassociation. I think there's places for all of those things, because those are tactics. It has to be balanced. Yeah. And like that was also a way of your body protecting yourself.
Definitely. There was a time and I agree. You need protection from that. I think about that too. Like I figured out mechanisms of when I don't feel safe to actually cry, or when I don't feel like it's the right environment, or when you just have to be a boss and you need to cry and get on with life. Like there is a time and place to do that. But then knowing that there's something in you that you need to process for later, like putting a bookmark there to think, okay, this is what triggered me. Let's get into it later. But right now, we need to get this done.
Exactly. And then that's like you having a beautiful relationship with your child self and your adult self, being like, okay, baby, like I got you. We'll handle this later. Cause like clearly that triggered the hell out of you. Yeah. But we have to go and show up for X, Y, and Z today. And then when we come home, we can process it. Exactly. And usually even the second that you have that conversation, it'll show up when it needs to, because then like your inner child isn't screaming at you that you're ignoring her. She trusts that you're going to show up. Yes. So it's like all the different versions.
Exactly. You don't suddenly have outbursts because.
No, because it's like, oh, I hear you. I think once again, like parenting advice is life advice. It's also personal, like self-awareness, it's growth, like how we raise kids, I think is a reflection of also just like how we self-teach ourselves and how we self-regulate ourselves. And so I've always been fascinated with like parenting and techniques and that, because
you have to do that for yourself
and for your friends. Like sometimes I'm the mom, sometimes Allie's the mom, like we trade off. Sometimes I'm the dad, like we don't know. And so being able to put on different shoes, I think really is adaptability is the greatest skill on this planet, adaptability, and being able to like, once again, what we were talking about in the beginning, like being able to healthfully, not from like, a position of like need, be able to insert ourselves in a way that lifts the experience up. Not like molding to the people pleaser mentality, but it's like, what part of myself can complete this moment? We have infinite parts of ourselves. Like really it's literally infinite, which is fantastic to know, because then, you know, with, you know, things like podcasts and stuff, I don't fear that, you know, there is something I've learned too, is like, if you don't keep giving out the information, God's going to stop giving it to you.
Oh yeah.
So you have to like keep the momentum going. Every time I learn something, I'm like, I don't even know if I'm worthy to say this, but I'm going to throw it out there anyways, just because it's like,
it's come to me.
I'm not afraid that that's the only thing I'm able to teach. And then that's where you like empty your cup and you get filled again.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we get scared of, I know for me, I'm like, but wait, what if I don't have any more to give? There's that feeling, that feeling of what if I don't have any more to share? So these are my things and this is what I've learned. But that it is all ego. You end up collecting all these things that you believe are yours, but none of it was yours in the first place.
And then it becomes stagnant. And then the motion, I think with our bodies, momentum creates momentum. It's the same with our wisdom and information, and like everything moves and fluxes and changes. And so letting that be the way you receive and give information and knowledge and wisdom is ultimately, once again, how you paradoxically learn how to be the teacher and
the student.
All
at the same time.
All at the same time.
I think if you're a teacher, you are never giving up being a student.
Never.
And actually, when you give up being a student, you stop being a
teacher.
Yeah.
Paradox.
Exactly.
Woohoo.
Oh, well, I have learned so much from you.
This is
and
fun.
I'm so grateful that you came on. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy we made it happen.
And you're just amazing. And I'm so excited that you all got to hear from Alexis. It makes me really happy to share her with you all. And thank you so much all for listening. If you made it this far, I mean, I'm not surprised because she's amazing, but thanks for putting up with me.
I feel like there wasn't a breath in between.
There was not.
There was just
not.
like, I felt like we were Gilmore Girls just going back and forth really fast.
And that's so nice. That's why I want to have, I always like, I'm planning to only have friends on.
Conversations, not interviews.
Yes. To just have genuine, meaningful conversations, talk about things that we find difficult, bring out whatever it is that we need to cry, laugh, do everything.
All the things.
And thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week.